All right, Ms. Shear and Ms. Woodward, if you would both activate your audio and videos, please. And if you would both raise your right hands. Testimony in this case will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. It looks like, to me, this issue's already been decided.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Shear, looks like Commissioner Wool signed an order on the 7th of July adding the children's names.
Yeah, I also requested a modification because Alana is not respecting my boundaries at all. She beat me up and assaulted me, and I don't want my kids playing around her kid, and she will not respect that. And she says it's not fair, but she should have thought about that before she beat me up, because I will not allow my children to be around any of them ever. And she had cameras pointing towards my home. I don't feel safe. I don't feel comfortable. They need to be respectful and leave me and my family alone. The judge didn't order it a distance that she needs to stay away from us, and I would appreciate if you would do that. Your Honor, the problem is that we are direct neighbors, so we need some kind of thing, like distance that she needs to stay away from my children and I.
Right. I understand what your legal issue is.
And I also want you to know that I'm also here to request a protection order against her mom because she tried to run us over.
I'm sure you're not going to get anywhere unless you only wait until I ask you to speak. All right. The question I have here is, it looks to me like the judge already has reviewed your petition that you filed, pointing all of this out, and decided the only thing he was going to do was add your children to the protection order. And he specifically made a choice not to put a distance restriction in because you are immediate neighbors. I think this issue has been resolved. He filed an amended order adding your children, but he decided not to change or add a distance restriction. He read your petition and decided not to do that. So there's nothing for me to do today in this regard. So you did not get what you asked for as far as the distance restriction. He did say that your children are added to the order. So I can't go back and revisit another judge's decision. Ms. Shear, just address that issue, please.
Can you at least tell me what this order does so that I can understand what this order is doing?
Before we even get into the courtroom, buckle up, because this case is less about protection orders and more about expectations crashing headfirst into reality. What starts as a neighbor dispute quickly spirals into accusations of assault, harassment, intimidation, and a fundamental misunderstanding of how protection orders actually work. On one side, we have a petitioner who feels unsafe, unheard, and convinced the system is failing her. On the other, we have a court laser-focused on procedure, jurisdiction, and what the law actually allows, not what someone emotionally wants it to do. And here's where things get interesting. This case already has a prior ruling. Another judge has reviewed the evidence, modified the order, and very deliberately decided what not to include. That detail matters more than anything else that happens next. Because no matter how passionately someone argues, no matter how emotional the claims become, the court cannot simply override another judge's decision just because someone disagrees with it. As this hearing unfolds, you'll see frustration boil over, communication completely break down, and a petitioner repeatedly push for outcomes the court legally cannot give. You'll also see a judge trying, sometimes patiently, sometimes bluntly, to explain the difference between feeling unsafe and meeting the legal threshold for court-ordered restrictions. The question is, will facts win or will emotion take over? Let's get into it.
All right, this order directs Ms. Woodward to cause no harm to you and your children. It tells her to have no contact with you or your children. Ms. Woodward is not to go onto your property. Or the daycare or school of your children. And it makes, Judge Wool made very clear that this order does not exclude Ms. Woodward from being on her own property. And those are restrictions. Now, the complaints you made earlier that you were assaulted, I don't know if that was prior to this order or not, but that's up to law enforcement. That's a crime. They can choose to make an arrest. They can choose to forward it to the prosecuting office. Enforcement of the order is up to the sheriff's office or the police.
The order was because of the assault. That is why I got the protection order.
All right, so you have an order, and whether Ms. is charged or not is not in the process of this order. That's up to the law enforcement. Hold on, we're not going to argue. You're just going to listen. You've asked a question. I'm going to give you some information. So you have an order that tells Ms. Woodward she can't have contact with you. It doesn't matter where you are, she can't have contact. So if you're telling me she's had contact, then the challenge for you is having evidence of that contact, witnesses or video or whatever that you can show to law enforcement to say, look, she's violating it. The fact that there's not a distance restriction doesn't mean that the sheriff can't enforce it. They can. If there's proof that Ms. Woodward has had contact with you or your children after the entry of this order, then that's up to the law enforcement and the prosecutor's office to decide whether there's something there they can do to enforce that order. So do you understand that?
So I did call the police after Alana was sitting near my children, and the police said that it doesn't state in the order a distance.
That's correct. It does not.
They were confused that she can't be near my kids.
It doesn't say she can't be near them. It says she can't have contact with them. She can't say anything.
I don't want her near my children, and I have that right as a parent. I want her to stay away from my children.
Thank you, Ms. Scheer. We're going to end this on this particular case because the decision has been made. I cannot change another judge's decision. So as to Ms. Woodward, that decision has been made. I see you filed a petition regarding Ms. Paz, and I'll deal with that in a moment. But as to Ms. Woodward, that decision has been made by a judge. The decision says Ms. Woodward is to have no contact with your children. So that means she can't speak with them. She can't touch them. Doesn't tell her she has to be any distance from them. Just says she can't have contact with them or with you. And the judge was very clear about that. And that's the final decision on that.
Well, as a parent, I'm going to say my kids cannot be near her at all.
That's fine. That's fine. You make those parental decisions.
Oh, I am.
This is the emotional core of the petitioner's argument, and also where the legal disconnect begins. She's framing the situation as a clear-cut case of violence, boundary violations, and ongoing danger, which understandably raises concern. But in the courtroom, allegations alone don't automatically translate into expanded legal protections. The judge isn't evaluating how upset or scared someone feels. They're evaluating what has already been ruled on and what authority they currently have. Notice how quickly multiple issues are bundled together. Alleged assault, cameras pointing at the house, fear for children, and demands for distance restrictions. Emotionally, that makes sense. Everything feels connected. Legally, though, each claim lives in a different lane. Assault is a criminal matter for law enforcement. Camera placement is a civil or privacy issue. A distance restriction is a specific legal remedy that has already been reviewed and denied due to the neighbors living next door. This is where many petitioners get stuck. Wanting protection doesn't automatically mean the court can redesign reality, especially when proximity makes enforcement nearly impossible.
Okay, all right. Ms. Woodward, you're all done. Thank you.
What about her having cameras pointed towards my house, Your Honor?
I am not addressing anything regarding Ms. Woodward because Commissioner Wall already addressed the order. I'm not changing it. I don't have the right to do so.
No, but what about her having cameras pointed against my house? Isn't that illegal?
Sure.
And harassment?
Okay. I don't enforce the order. That's up to law enforcement. All right, Ms. Scheer, activate your audio, please. All right. Tina Paz is Ms. Woodward's mother. Is that what I understand?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. And you describe one incident in here where you say that she drove around you and some friends over the speed limit in the apartment complex, and you said drove a circle around, looks like 3 of you. When did this occur?
This occurred the other day. This occurred on the day before I went into court the next day to get this order. So it had to have been Thursday night.
Okay. Did she say anything to you?
She came speeding at us, and at first I thought it, like I said in the order, I thought it was my other neighbor because she speeds through the complex. But then she was going towards us, so then I thought it was another girl that lived here that had yelled at my children earlier on. And then when she pulled into Alana's driveway at a speed and parked and got out of the car, I said, "Oh my God, that's Alana's mom." And she said, "Yep, sure is." Just like that, and then slammed Alana's door as she was going in.
So,
And yes, my apartment complex has it on video.
okay. And did you call the sheriff and have them look at the video?
The officers came out, but it was nighttime, so no, they did not see the video. But I did call in and let them know that the video was found by the landlord. Whether or not they saw it, I don't know, because the officer didn't get back to me.
Right. Does Ms. Paz live in the same apartment as her daughter?
Nope.
Does she live in the apartment complex at all?
Nope.
Has she ever said or done anything to you otherwise besides this incident?
Yeah, she's been rude to me always. Even when I was friends with Alana, she had an attitude towards me for no reason. She's not a very nice lady.
Okay. Well, we can't change how people's...
Okay, but don't you see how this is becoming an aggressive harassment towards me? Her mom tried to run me over.
Okay, which isn't a crime. So if law enforcement believes there's a crime there, they can charge her.
What they did was they advised me to get a protection order against her so that they could do something.
This moment is pivotal, even if it doesn't feel dramatic on the surface. The judge is drawing a hard procedural line. This issue has already been decided. Courts operate on finality for a reason. Without it, cases would never end, and litigants could endlessly re-argue the same requests until they got the answer they wanted. What the petitioner is struggling to accept here is that disagreement does not equal appeal. The prior judge reviewed her petition, acknowledged her concerns, and intentionally chose not to impose a distance restriction because of the shared property line. That decision wasn't an oversight, it was deliberate. The current judge doesn't get to fix that just because emotions are high today. Jurisdiction matters. Authority matters. And this is why the judge keeps redirecting the conversation away from feelings and back toward what the court can legally act on, which in this moment is nothing further regarding Miss Woodward.
Right. All right. So has she ever, when was the last time prior to this incident that you had any contact with Ms. Paz?
She's here all the time.
Okay. So every day?
The other day, she's here, yeah, pretty much every day, every couple of days. She's here all the time.
And what's the nature of the contact that you have with her when she's there?
I don't contact her at all. I have a protection order against her daughter. I haven't spoke to her at all. I didn't speak to her before or after the incident.
Sure.
I have no idea why she did that.
How does she
I don't see why this is funny.
Because
I don't feel safe.
We're not going to get anywhere unless you just listen and answer my questions. What is the nature of her contact with you? What are you asking me to stop?
To be honest, me and Lindsay wanted her 86 off the property because she tried to run us over.
Mm-hmm.
I want a protection order against her at the very least where she can't come near me or my kids again. If I had been holding my 1-year-old child when she drove near me like that, that would have been so scary.
And what makes you think that she did that on purpose?
I know she did it on purpose because she drove a circle around us in a parking lot. I don't think you understand. She drove a small circle around our bodies. We felt the heat on our legs. And then my neighbor talked to Alana, and her mom did that because she was mad that I said my kids couldn't play with Alana's boyfriend's nephew or brother. Mm-hmm. And it's my right, the officer said, to not have people around my children. I don't think you understand the brutal assault Alana did, and now her mom did that. I don't feel safe. And you guys aren't really protecting me or ordering anything that my landlord can do.
Well,
did I have to get ran over before something happens?
Tell me what else happened. Has she ever said anything to you? She threatened you. Ms. Paz,
Yes, that was threatening, what she did after I got a protection order against her daughter.
anything other than the car? Has she said anything to you? She said, I'm going to get you because you had an order against my daughter. Has she said anything like that?
Does it have to come to that? I don't understand what you're saying. She drove towards me going 20 or 30 miles an hour.
So the answer is no. She hasn't said anything other than the incident. I'm asking, outside of the incident, what else has happened? Do you have an answer?
No, because I feel like I have to die or be injured really bad before you guys will do something. This is not funny to me. You're sitting there laughing. It is not funny to me. This is me and my family's life. I want Alana and her family to leave me and my family alone. I have lived here for 8 years. She's lived here for a year or two.
This explanation is actually one of the most important moments in the entire hearing, and it's where clarity finally enters the room. The judge breaks down exactly what the protection order does and does not do in plain language. No contact means no communication, no touching, no approaching with intent to engage. It does not mean invisibility. It does not mean forced relocation. And it does not override property rights. This distinction matters because the petitioner keeps interpreting proximity as violation. Legally, that's incorrect. Someone can be nearby without having contact. Especially in shared spaces, enforcement depends on behavior, not distance. The judge also points out something critical. Enforcement doesn't come from the bench, it comes from evidence. If violations occur, they must be documented and presented to law enforcement. Courts issue orders, police enforce them. That separation exists to prevent exactly this kind of confusion.
I am not going to allow her children to play with my children.
This is not about
I'm not going to allow her to be around my children just because you guys think it's funny. This is a serious matter to me, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Shearer, number one, we're not talking about the order with Ms. Woodward because I told you another judge has already decided that. I cannot do anything.
For a modification. How can you not modify it?
The judge already did the modification, added your children, decided not to add a distance restriction. That decision had.
Can I ask you a question? How do you know he decided that? Because I was told that he was adding my children because he was supposed to be added before, and that I was going to court today about the modification. That is what I was told.
That's not what I see here. I see that he saw your petition and specifically wrote on there, he wrote that Ms. Woodward can be wherever she wishes relative to her property. She can't have contact with you or your children. That was made very clear on his order. I cannot revisit that order.
You mean the first order, not the modification?
No, the modification. So I
would like to see that because I don't.
Okay, so we're not arguing that. We're talking about Ms. Paz. You want me to issue a no contact order against Ms. Paz. I need some information from you. I understand what you've told me about her circling around you in her vehicle. Has anything else regarding Ms. Paz occurred that makes you believe she is threatening you besides the automobile incident?
That is all I needed to feel unsafe. So no, that's the only thing that she's done so far. But that doesn't mean more won't happen if you do nothing about this.
I understand that.
The officers believed I should get a protection order.
Okay. Sheriffs always say that because then they can stop an investigation. So if there is a video, I strongly suggest that you call the sheriff and ask them to look at the video, because what you're describing is a potential vehicular assault, and that's a crime, a very serious crime. And if they look at the video and are satisfied that in fact that's what occurred, they can forward that to the prosecutor's office for filing of a criminal charge. But if they don't look at it, they can say, yeah, go get a protection order, but nothing really changes. So if there is a video,
I'm still very much going to ask them to get that video, very much so.
Well, okay.
But in the meantime, if that is what occurred, don't you think I should get some protection?
So telling people not to commit crimes doesn't mean they didn't commit a crime. So I can order everybody in the world don't commit a crime, but that's not much protection. So if there's a crime been committed, I strongly suggest that you follow up on that.
There was a crime committed. She was driving right for us. We had to move out of the way so she didn't hit us. And then she sped around us in a circle and then flew into the... It's 5 miles per hour here.
Okay. Well, you may want to get a copy of that video because what you've
I
told
don't
me
know
is,
how to get a copy of that video.
well, you can contact the sheriff's office. You can verify with the apartment complex that, in fact, there is a video that shows.
Oh, we know there's a video. Lindsay already verified with the manager's husband that there was a video found.
Okay. And did the sheriff see it?
I told you, I called and requested that sheriff that was here that night to call me back, and he has not. And it might be because it was a holiday.
This is where emotion fully collides with legal reality. The statement, "I have that right as a parent," is absolutely true, but only in a personal sense, not a judicial one. Parents can set boundaries for their own children, decide who they interact with, and control their own household rules. What they cannot do is use the court to impose those personal boundaries onto neighbors without legal justification. The judge isn't dismissing her fear, but fear alone isn't a legal standard. The court has already granted the maximum relief it believes is enforceable under the circumstances. The frustration here comes from wanting the court to validate feelings by issuing stronger restrictions, even when those restrictions would be impractical or legally unsupported. This moment highlights a common courtroom misunderstanding. Courts don't exist to guarantee comfort. They exist to apply the law.
Okay. All right. I don't control the sheriff. I can't order them to do anything. So
I'm going to call that when I'm done here and follow up on that. But I'm just asking you if I can get a protection order for what happened. The more that they get away with, the more they feel like they can get away with.
all right. You need to understand there's a limit to what these orders can do. And you've already found that out on the order regarding Ms. Woodward. Judge has made a decision.
I don't understand why she was able to assault me in front of my children and then be around my children.
I'm not the one who made that decision. That decision has been made. I don't revisit it. So that's what the court's decision was. I suspect it was because she lives next door to you and the judge was not inclined to force her out of that apartment.
He doesn't have to. I asked for a distance outside that she needed to remain away from us. That's all I asked for. It doesn't matter. I'll just have to enforce it with my children, I guess. That sucks. My kids will have to leave the park if she comes there. I'm so tired of dealing with this situation. I just want them to leave us alone.
Judge's order regarding Ms. Woodward tells her to do that.
But what about the cameras? She's allowed to have them pointed at my home?
Do you have any video that she's taken from the camera or photos?
How would I have that? We don't speak.
Right. So that's a really hard one to enforce. So that's typically why we don't address those issues on protection orders. Because lots of people do things like that and then they say, well, my camera is just my security camera and take in other things. So I don't see any basis for me to issue an order regarding that. I am going to issue a temporary protection order against Ms. Paz, telling her to have no contact with you or your children, not to come within 10 feet of you or your children.
What about my boyfriend? He is Aaron that she also drove around.
If he wants an order, he has to file a request for an order. Only one person files a request. There will be a hearing on this issue on the 15th of September, just like this. And Ms. Paz served.
Do I get it from the, do I call the civil department to get the Zoom link and everything?
It will be emailed to you.
Okay.
So hold on just a minute.
Okay. Sorry and thank you. I don't feel safe anymore here.
Well, you need to understand that there are limits to what the court can do to a protection order. And if you understanding, stop. If you stand what those limits are and you think that's not enough protection for me, you may have to make different decisions as a parent, and what you're going to do. But there is a limit to what the court can do. So you need to understand that, and it may not meet all your needs. So you may have to make other decisions.
Well, how do we get the officers to understand that in the order against Alana, it states that she can't be near us?